Hi all. So this is Red Sphere here. Going to be discussing internal controllers in TBMC stuff. Okay, so um, one thing to remember with this is, of course, this is a TBMC subject, so contract warnings for some discussion of that sort of stuff. I noticed we've been being a bit lax for those lately, so I'm going to try and remember to do that. Okay, so internal controllers are headmates whose primary role it is in the system to, of course, provide control internally in various different ways. Mostly, of course, that is, projecting out onto the other headmates the requirements from those that have done programming and keeping that programming running effectively, for want of a better word. It's not really quite that simple, but that's the basic concept behind it, at least. So it's an important thing to know there. Of course, it's important to know that it tends not to be quite such a static thing. It's not like you just have someone internally who, is just in control. It's far more messy. It's far messier than that. Likely to have a few people who, a number of controllers, all of whom, obviously they have control over some number of non-controllers internally, but then also a loop of controllers, basically in control of each other, which helps ensure that they're all, doing their job per se. So you'll tend to see that there are multiple controllers internally, all of whom, are doing things, all of whom are in control of some system mates, some headmates that aren't part of the, that are just, that are not controllers, and then one or two controllers as well. Yeah, okay. Internal controller programming is often started, the first internal controllers, because obviously the number will grow as the system grows, but you'll have some from very early on, because surprise, surprise, it's very helpful to have from very early on, right? So, yeah, expect to find some very old members, shall we say, not necessarily in terms of age presentation, but potentially that as well. Potentially not, of course, that can vary quite heavily, but you will see headmates from very early on in controlling positions. Probably not seen outside in quite a while. Once that programming has been set in, it tends to be one of those that's not entirely left to its own devices, of course, but is relatively unnecessary to be checked in on effectively. So you'll tend to see that they get very little outside time because it's not seen as necessary in the same way as with they've not got a role that needs them outside. So yeah, they'll get outside. They'll spend some time outside, reinforcing that programming, but almost nothing else ever. Because nothing else is helpful in terms of completing their role. So why would they get it? They're there to complete their role, and their role is to continue to provide control internally. So you won't see much. You won't see much from them externally. Once they've been programmed, a little bit of programming reinforcement, of course, but that will tend to be about it. Of course, that's not a guarantee, but that's likely to be what you'll see. Likely going to struggle to front. Yes, there will be fronting cues for them. Same as with any other headmate, because even if it's not required often, there is still some need to reinforce that programming on occasion. So that will occur, and as such, there will be ways to get them to front. They'll just be harder to find, probably, less likely to occur by accident, because you don't want that happening. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one thing you're going to notice, probably. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, of course, in terms of deprogramming them, it can be very difficult to do because they've got they feed into each other often and reinforce each other's programming, which it's difficult enough to deprogram their headmate whose entire existence is not just reinforcement from the entire right. They only really know each other, probably. They're unlikely to know anyone else. They're unlikely, well, not significantly, the other people, their social circle is effectively still the internal controllers, probably they're not necessarily, of course, but that's likely to be the case. And they're unlikely to perceive anyone who's not an internal controller as a threat, especially once deprogramming has begun, because what's happening is effectively it's people breaking out from under their control, and their whole life their control has been what's kept them safe. So them seeing that get broken by people and people trying to break that control, it's difficult, and it's an understandable fear, but it's not helpful, unfortunately. As understandable as it is, it's unhelpful, certainly. But it's not to say to blame them, but just to try and understand that, and realize that before you go out attempting to before attempting to deprogram them, any internal controllers. Additionally, of course, you run into the difficulty of they're heavily reinforced by each other, which means it can be difficult for them to break out, even if you've got one to listen to you and start deprogramming. It's not necessarily going to do much good when they go back at the end that you had a good conversation with them, and then you step away from them for a bit, and then one of their social circle, effectively, another internal member steps in and then basically undoes all that hard work by making it seem like you're untrustworthy and what have you, and that's unfortunate, but understandable, unfortunately. And of course, if you're trying to so the answer there, you'd think, well, just get a whole group of them out at once, and they're like, yeah, okay, sure, if you've got the resources for that, but that's the problem with that is, of course, the larger your system, i.e., the more resources you have available for deprogramming, in that sense, the more internal controls there are going to be, because there's a set amount, effectively, of headmates that any one internal controller can realistically control, and so it's likely to be about 10% of your system, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the specifics. But which means that great, we've got 100 people in the system and 20 of them are deprogrammed. Yeah, okay, cool. So you're going to go deprogram all 10 internal controllers at once with the 20 of you that are deprogrammed? Like, yeah, you might be able to. The 20 of you that are deprogrammed might be, all competent enough at that to actually help enough with that for that to be feasible, but it's just as reasonable, that's... It's going to be difficult to find enough people who are deprogrammed enough, especially relatively early, which, obviously, these are important people in the system, so it's probably worth getting to them earlier. It's going to be very difficult to achieve when they make up a significant portion of the system, and just as importantly, make up a significant portion of those who are, probably highly unwilling to deprogram, because they've got their friendships effectively on the line. Their entire social network is on the line, and so they're not going to want to break that easily. That's what you're attempting to do here, is turn that social network around, and yeah, okay, that's easier in some ways if you're getting to all of them at once, but that means that comes with its own difficulties, so don't expect that to be an easy task, of course. It's possible, yeah, certainly, but it's not going to be as easy as a quick 1-2 punch or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So everything that's been scripted, brilliant. Okay. Is there anything else important to say? Probably. I don't know what though right now. This has been a difficult one to script for, and it's been difficult to film. But is what it is. Hopefully this has been useful and insightful in some way. And hopefully I'll take issues on back, so we'll actually have the drawing available for this one. Thank you all for watching. This System signing out. Hope to catch you all next week. Please do remember to like, subscribe, comment, especially if you've got any questions you want answered. Be happy to answer them either in the comments or in another video. So catch you all next week.